Oh, the free one. Oh,
You change again?
I just came in and saw it, and I don't ask. I just sat down.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do
I don't. That's me. I just, I just said I don't know. I mind my
I'll follow your lead on that. Yeah.
If everyone please stand, we'll call this meeting, city council meeting to order. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll ask Councilman Allen if he would lead us in the pledge. You may be seated. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you have roll call, please.
Mr. Allen,
Here.
Mrs. Wilkins Brown,
Here.
Mrs. Goodford Conway,
Here.
Mrs. Hambrick,
Present.
Mr. Hampton,
Here.
Mr. Showalter,
Here.
Mr. Stone, Mrs. Patton.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, we have a motion for the approval of minutes.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Stone. Are there further discussion and/or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. If you have received the receipt of the check registry, please raise your hand, council. Let the record reflect that all council members received the check register. At this time, we have public comments. Remember, on public comments, you will have 4 minutes. Please state your name and what you want to discuss. Again, this is not a question and answer. Let's be cognizant of the time, and we'll go from there. At this time, A.J. Singleton, Sawyer Point, MHP.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is A.J. Singleton with Stahl, Keenan, Ogden. I'm here on behalf of the owners and operators of the Sawyer Point Mobile Home Park, talking about a change order that I thank you that was placed on the agenda for today for your all's consideration. This is related to a change order request for the South Sewer Extension Project related to repairing and repaving of streets within the mobile home park that were damaged, destroyed, whatever you want to call it, as part of the project. You've heard me talk before about how the previous owner, previous to my clients, really didn't care about the residents. They wanted to do things on the cheap and only budgeted for trenching. Through this change order request, we and the city and the Georgetown Municipal Water Board can all do right by the community to make their lives a little bit easier. Now, this is also a change that is not going to cost either the city or the water board a dime. You're going to hear figures from Chase that I think provided, Chase Acevedo from the Georgetown Municipal Water Board, that savings on our part of the project alone is coming in at $887,000. And the way this project is structured is there's 3 different sections. And my client is responsible for repayment of the loan of our part, section 1B. Again, that's coming in at $887,000 under budget. The change in price for doing pavement that would be more appropriate for repairing these roads is coming in at $667,000, I think. So even $200,000 less than the projected savings. Again, this is a joint public-private project from the very beginning. There's a user agreement among us, the city, and the Georgetown Municipal Water Board to allocate the spending, allocate the financing, allocating the repayment. And there's a particular part of the user agreement, section 5.2, that I think that Chase may have provided to each of you in the packet. And part of that recognizes that if there are savings in our section, section 1B of the project, the net savings inures to our benefit. So that, again, we think that those monies can be used to pave the roads in a more appropriate way. Furthermore, even beyond that, if there is savings at the end of the day in sections 1A and 2, which the city and the water board are responsible for, even then those net savings can be used for cost increase on our side. But we don't even think it gets there. Again, that's in section 5.2 of the user agreement. Now, we've heard before that the paving season may be over, and that is what it is. But I can also tell you that this has been going on, the negotiations and the work on this has been going on for months and months and months. And what the community, the mobile home community and my client need is some strong showing of commitment or interest on behalf of the city so that the city can get behind this. So then we can also go to the Georgetown Municipal Water Board so that we can show them that you guys support this. Because at the end of the day, all three have to agree. And we want to make things better right by the residents. And it may not be until next year that we can do the repaving. But what we'd really like to see is you all get strongly behind this now so that we can share that with our residents now. And so that we can be in a position to be first in line in the paving season 2024 to get this done right. Thank you all for your consideration. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, Markey, yes. And this is Toys for Tots.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for your all's time. I'm Scott Markey. I'm the Toys for Tots coordinator for Georgetown. I'm also here with Lieutenant Cromer from Scott County Fire Department. We're asking for our 3rd annual Toys for Tots Stop, Drop, and Run 5K. It's going to be out at Country Boy. We're asking for road closure. This is going to be the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Road closure should start around 8 o'clock and should be reopened by noon. We really don't need anything. We don't need any barricades. We don't need any police officers. We're just asking permission to shut down the road. Tracy should have all the paperwork filed, and I want to invite all y'all out to come run with us.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
I want to clarify the roads that will be shut down, please. And this Enterprise Road, is that in the,
He is
is that in the Country Boy?
It's a business.
It's going to be all out of Country Boy, yes, sir.
And then the,
So the only road closures that we've had in the last 2 years that we've done this has been Enterprise and Corporate at Cynthiana, and then Enterprise at Endeavor. So at Enterprise and Endeavor is where the runners will turn to go to their out and back. So that's the only 3 road closures that we have.
And this is going to be the Saturday after Thanksgiving in the morning. Here recently, the past 2 years, there has been no traffic out there. We haven't interrupted any kind of businesses or anything like that.
and it says traffic control has been historically been given by EMA.
EMA is
So we
going to
don't
be doing
need-
this.
okay.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is made by Ms. Tackett and second by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further discussion and or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to bring to the attention of this council that had not had an opportunity to sign in the sheet? Would you put that down, please, Tracy? Thank you. Okay, for mayor's comments, we're going to take a little time here and go over a few things. First, we're going to bring to your attention that you should have received information of a new city attorney. Her name is Emily Buttritt, and that you should have information on her, and that and at this time, unless you have any questions, I'd like to have a motion that we accept this recommendation for her to be hired as the new city attorney, and she will be sworn in by me on the first day she shows up, which will be November the 20th.
Her resume looks really good and everything. I just want to make sure, everything's up to par, because we were in this situation the last time and it looked good, and I was on all aboard for Mr.
Yep.
Pauly, and I don't want to sit there and vote on something.
It
that we're
is, yep, it's good.
not- Okay,
We're good to go.
okay.
That was my question, so
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
You made a motion. Motion is made by Mr. Allen, second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Brent. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion carried.
Mayor, I would say,
I don't want to embarrass her, but Miss Emily is in the corner here. She's going to hang out for tonight's council meeting and get a sneak preview of what she'll be joining in on November 27th. Like the mayor said, her first day is November 20th, week from today, so she'll be sworn in then. She'll have a short week with Thanksgiving, but she'll get to know all the city staff. We'll have a little Thanksgiving potluck, so super excited for her to get started, and look forward to all of you meeting her.
Does she have anything to say?
Welcome.
That's a good thing.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Also, council, I want to bring to your attention that we're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony for the new EMS out there by Lexus Way on site. It's going to be Tuesday, November 21st. It's going to be at 4:30. So you're welcome to come and actually watch a few of us dig up some dirt and throw it. Hopefully we won't throw it on each other, but we'll at least throw some dirt over somewhere. So that will be on Tuesday, November the 21st, 4:30, the new EMS station, groundbreaking. All right. All right, a couple things. You should have received something from me on your sheet as to talking about some revenue, capital needs. And one thing we've been talking about, and I think we talked with some of the council members, they wanted to see some type of plan, which we're gonna, I want to move in direction, I want to move in talking about revenue and such. So you should have one. If you didn't get this packet, please let me know.
Just a handout, was it electronic copy or just a handout?
It should be this one right here, just a handout, yeah. So, and we're also gonna send you the handout too electronically, so I know it's kind of small, but let's look at, first of all, some, you see in that paper, some capital needs, looking at those, and these are some that we have talked about, and also not this council, but in previous council. These have been some reoccurring talks. The regional and local economic development, the Fire Station 4, stormwater system improvements, expansion of Georgetown Cemetery, City Hall renovation, which we are now doing, Lexus Way, Old Oxford, and what we're waiting on there is actually we're waiting on Andy Barr's office to make sure that we're getting, we do have the money, but we don't have it in hand. And we gotta wait through a couple of things coming at us to get that done. Parks and Rec, quality of life projects, phase 2 and 3 of the Main Street sidewalk projects. As you're talking about some others, and as you see some operating needs, the police, as you see that by FBI standard was 10 short, according to the FBI standard of 78 authorized strength. The fire, we are short by the standard, but hopefully we'll be at full strength soon. We're working on that. We want to boost general staffing to increase efficiency and level of service, obtaining more grant funding, et cetera. To get a good example, you know, we just received a message, email about we applied for the TAP grant for the sidewalk extension, and we were turned down again. But we're going to keep at it. We are going to hopefully meet with the state again, and maybe change the scope of it a little bit. But you know, here's another reason why, you know, you can't always depend on grant funding. You know, somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to figure out some other ways to get things done. And also, another thing is to body worn cameras, caution of that. And there's another sheet that shows you the actual general, that's the small print, revenue, sources, and you can see what they are, you know, the real and personal property tax, what we, and I think we went over this before.
Yeah, and I can send that out via email. The small print on that one, that was more just a reminder. Those are all the revenue sources that Stacy brings to you all the time for quarterly updates and things like that. But when I send it out, you'll see the ones that are dedicated revenue sources and the ones that are general fund, and also you'll see the ones that don't have numbers beside them are just some of the revenue sources that have been discussed as new sources of revenue. So that's really just an FYI sheet. It's no different information than you already have.
And then there's a sheet, there's revenue measures, and here's where the bulk of the things is. You know, I understand the climate in which we live in. And we had got a big announcement from Toyota, as you all know, the occupational tax, that they're gonna give everybody a little bit of a raise. And we were doing the figures, and we're still working on the figures, but we have at least somewhere a close ballpark of where we're gonna receive somewhere between $700,000 to $800,000 on that. But once again, $700,000 to $800,000, yep, it does kind of shrinks that deficit a little bit, but it doesn't actually meet the needs where we want to be, where we can actually make progress. You know, one of the things that I think this council all will agree is one thing we want to try to do, and one of my big components of trying to do is, you know, when we go into the budget cycle, we want to make sure that we have some avenue or revenue in place or a plan in place where we're going to hopefully be close to a balanced budget. We cannot continue to operate that way. Now, some of our revenue has been performing well, but also is contributed to where we don't have where we have vacancies. And of course, you know, we need to be at, you know, full staff so we can provide the services. But anyway, just some revenue measures you can see here that, you know, I'm going to look at, that I am actually recommending to this council. Now, you look at this, this is not going to tell you that we're going to try to do all this at one time. This is not the task. But at least it gives you a map to where I'd like us to go. Insurance premium tax, which is an increase of 1% this year and 1% next year. Now, if you look at this, 1% will bring in, so I think we did the math on this, somewhere between $800,000. So if you do it for 2 years and cap it at 2, you're looking at $1.6 million revenue. And that is reoccurring revenue. And on that, the electric franchise fee at 3%, we must, of course, notice required under the franchise agreement. That in itself will bring in a significant amount. And as you saw on the sheet, how much is actually coming in. So if we can get the others on board with this, it will be helpful. Now, the impact, the developmental impact fee, as we're going to talk about tonight, they're going to give an update on that. That is something that you all want to look at as we're growing, and we want to try to meet the needs, and that we're not actually later on trying to dip into general fund to do fix or repair or handle situations that might occur. The general fund is that and dedicated revenue, and what I'm proposing is a 1% for this coming year. Now this ties in to, you know, what we want to use it for. Well, we're looking down the road a fire station 4, then this money is tied into that because you know, it has to do connected with our insurance premium and our insurance, and so that in itself gives us a little bit of a savings there. And in looking down the road with some others, whether it be electric franchise fee, but the insurance premium tax, I really want to look at and strongly recommend that we really do, because we're going. Yes, Toyota's giving us helps, but if we're trying to get where we're going to have a balanced budget or close to that and have revenue, then I think this is the ticket we need. And I get it, and you know, this doesn't sit well with a lot of people. This is a tough decision that council will have to take, but this council, those who've been on before, have made tough decisions before. Give a good example, the 911 fee. You all saw a need that you couldn't keep dipping into your general fund to fund that. And so you made the effort to show that, hey, this is an issue, so we want to address that. So I agree, this is gonna be tough. And I understand what people, and I hear people talk to me often about this, but I really believe that this is the best way that we can go, because going in, when we start the budget process, which almost started in January, early, I want to have an idea of revenue that I know I can put my hands on and say, okay, then make some decisions that keep us close to that. So that's my feel on that. And like I said, but also in going further with this, you know, I like to know what you think. I like to hear from this council on your thoughts. And I think people in this community wants to know, because at the end of the day, people in the community wants to know what we think. Because we were the ones that were elected by them, and they want to know what we think about it. If we're for it, okay. If we're not, why? And if you got an alternative, what is the alternative that we have? So,
Mayor, could I ask a point of information?
sure.
Either you or Devin or whomever might know, do we know on the insurance premium tax what this increase would be relative to other cities?
Yes, so right now we are at an 8% and we are right at the average. So a 1% increase would put us slightly above the average of that group of peer cities that we've used for property tax comparison. So it would be one category where a little bit higher than other communities.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
One question on the very first page under capital needs. I might have misunderstood you, but you mentioned the Lexus Way Old Oxford project and that we're waiting on our U.S. representative
Yeah,
on that.
so
But, did you say that we did have the funding?
Well, we don't have funding in hand. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, because I think we went through the process, but they have to sign off on it. That's what we're waiting on.
Okay.
We have email acknowledgement from Representative Barr's office that we have been selected and included in the bill. She seemed to think that that bill was going to be signed in November, but we all know that there's been some happenings in the federal government, so I don't know exactly when that's slated to happen. But we were included for about, I believe it was right around $2 million for the design phase of that project.
Yeah. And once we get that, then we can start that process and then go from there, so.
I have another question. Sorry. Go ahead, Alonzo.
On the page with the really small fine print, it says the dedicated revenue sources, and under it's got restaurant tax. That revenue goes to tourism, so we just need to clarify that.
Right.
The money that we can get from that will be what we're sending to tourism. We won't have to do that anymore. So it looks a little
Right.
weird showing it under a dedicated revenue stream, but that money,
It's
that revenue goes to
it's
tourism.
not coming to us anyway, right? It's really, but it goes back to the city, you know, now, that's something we'll circle back to at a much, much later time.
And then the second part of the question is, we had a $1.6 million deficit this last budget period, and we've got new expenses. How does this increase your plan? How does it offset the $1.6 million deficit and the new expenses that we're seeing? Like
Well-
EMS station and things of that nature.
Well, like I said, you know, the EMS station is something that we're looking down the road. We're not looking for to do it in the next budget cycle. You know, we're just trying to.
EMS, not fire.
Excuse me, EMS, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the EMS, I think that was $200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus there's a water line increase or something that's coming. So that's another, I'm just curious, how does this part with offsetting the 1.6 and new expenses that we see?
Well, like I said, you know, that's where we have to just look at it, and I have to sit down and see exactly how much revenue we're getting and then go from there. And hopefully, like I said, attack that, you know, as we find out.
Mayor, as I look at this sheet that says revenue measures, are these in any order of preference or timing? If you had your.
The insurance premium tax is the big
That's your
ticket.
first
That's my
priority.
first priority, because we have to get that done, and if we're gonna do that, it has to, we're time sensitive on that. As you can see, that's, gotta be passed before March 24th.
Okay, and then are these in any other order of preference?
Yeah, we look at the gas, the electric franchise fee, and the development fee is something that, you know, once we get all the information we need with that, because, you know, that's something we're hope to have in play within not, maybe next year, the year after.
Okay.
And on that one, and I know it's not printed, but you can see the one on this sheet that's highlighted as dedicated revenue is the development impact fee. And I won't get too far into it since we're gonna have an update on that later, but based on the timeline that's been presented from the selected consultant, it looks like if the council had the appetite to do it, that could be imposed closer to the start of the next fiscal year. Obviously, the work that they do doesn't check the box. The council ultimately has to impose the fee still. So they're projecting that they can be finished in April or May with their report to bring to the council. So there's some options there. It's just kind of like Mayor said, when the council is ready to hear that and ready to consider that. But in terms of the other ones, and I know I've given this update at Finance Committee, we're still waiting to hear from Columbia Gas on gross figures, so we don't have any idea right now what that could bring. Obviously, electric is much more heavily used, especially in newer homes. But we know, and on that second sheet, we know the coinciding revenue we can expect if we were to go to that flat 3% on electric, which is what almost all communities are doing now with their utilities, minus the Lexingtons that do a 5%. And a franchise fee, it's a fee that is paid for the privilege of using our roads and infrastructure to provide a service and make money. That's a really basic way to say it, but it's the same thing that we charge to Republic because their trucks go over our roads. They owe us that, and they pass that through. So to go from that 1.75 to a 3 is over $1 million additional revenue. Gas, we have the ability under our franchise agreement to have a fee, but we don't have one for gas. We do for electric. So it's just something we've talked about in the scope of what is reasonable and what do communities do to be able to provide the level of service. And it's those two, I think, are an example of something that communities do and that honestly people expect in most communities. So I don't know if that answers the question, but there's still some information to be gathered specifically on the gas side.
And once again, this is just simply like, what we want to do first. Again, the insurance premium, I believe is one because it's time sensitive, and that's small steps. And along with what Toyota's giving us there, so we're looking at what, 700 to 800,000 there, plus another 800. You're at least looking at probably 1.6 at this time. So, and we'll have to look at Alonzo, as you asked, on some of these others, through our, with finance and, be conservative on a few things and see where they fall into place. But again, the idea is that I want to try to at least get us in, so when I start in January, start talking about budget, I like to have an idea what kind of revenue I'm dealing with, what the finance committee is dealing with. So we can make some decisions that we can bring to council and say, hey, this is where we need to go with this. Okay?
And I guess another point of clarification, the increase that Toyota gave will come through, the increase of 800,000 will come through payroll tax.
Right.
So, we're saying what Toyota's giving us, but that's coming through
Payroll tax.
tax,
Right.
not through net profits.
So, I'm sorry, the way I'm looking at this, insurance premium, 800,000, additional from Toyota, 800, that's 1.6, and if you look at the franchise of 1 million, so you're looking at 2.6 million just in those three categories right there, with 800,000, not just the increase in payroll tax.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify.
And I think, and I know this council's had a handful of workshops, and I think some of the workshops are pretty early on in the term, and I think, looking at this page with capital and operating, obviously that just scratches the surface. Those are things that are commonly discussed. I'm sure council members have things they'd like to add to those lists, or might say, yeah, I think that's a need, but I don't see it as a big priority. So going into the new year and going into the budget cycle, it's probably worthwhile to have not just the capital needs, but a kind of a priority session to understand where take the temperature of the council as a whole to see, okay, it appears that there is full support and emphasis on Fire Station 4, or we want to shift our focus to law enforcement staffing, whatever it may be. So I think that sheet is just an example of the fact that we've got a lot of needs, but those needs have to be fleshed out as a council. I know the mayor prioritizes these, but I think there are other items that can come to the forefront as well.
And again, we're just trying to make sure that, you know, we have some type of roadmap, so everybody knows what we're thinking of and where we wanna go with this. You know, I don't want anybody to be in the dark and everybody guessing, well, what do you think? So by putting it out here and where I wanna go with this, this gives you an idea where we wanna go with this, so. All right. Okay, again, thank you for your patience, and let's move on with the council committee reports. We had a finance, committee report, we didn't?
Yeah, we did.
We had the,
special?
the special, yeah, special call one.
I've got a call.
We went over that last time, didn't we?
No,
No, we did not.
I've got a call, do it, want me to do it?
Yeah, if you got it pulled up there, please.
So we had a meeting on October 30th. This was a special call finance meeting. We approved the minutes. We talked about the fiscal agent for our fiscal agent financial advisor. We had 3 that we were reviewing, did a scoring process, and I think you'll be seeing that tonight. It's on the agenda to come before council. And then we talked about the mayor's revenue plan, said a draft copy will be circulated. So you've gotten that tonight as well. So we did have some discussions around that. And then we talked about development impact fees consultants, so a contract will be coming before council as well. And then we talked about the investment. Whitaker Bank had a CD of $380,000. It was maturing on 10/31. We decided to move that into cash with the plans that once we get the fiscal agent on board, we'll sit down and look at this holistically to see what are we doing with the monies that we have. Any questions?
Any questions of the council on that committee? All right, next, yeah, police,
Police?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
highlights,
You wanna read it? You want me to read it?
just highlights.
No, go ahead.
Okay. We met on November 6th?
Yes.
November 6th, 9 a.m. Minutes were approved. We moved into staffing, hiring, and recruiting. 3 officers graduated this past week from the academy, and then had 2 started on Sunday. Losing 2 officers to other departments for more money. And Chief, anytime you want to jump in on anything, by all means, jump ahead. Currently have 4 certified in the hiring process, 7 non-certified officers in the hiring process. Chief Allgood spoke with women's volleyball and basketball teams about interest in joining the police department. They also attended Kentucky State University and Eastern Kentucky University, and shortly we'll be traveling to Campbellsville to spend a couple days talking with classes down there about recruiting for Georgetown PD. We did get to see the new recruiting vehicle for the police department. It looks really nice, and if you want to send pictures to everybody, that'd be awesome. That way they can see it as well. So, speed enforcement is still a top need, and if all goes well, by sometime in December, the hopes are the police department will be fully staffed, and Chief Allgood will be requesting officers in January for the traffic unit. Mayor Jenkins stated as we grow, it's going to be a major need, especially for the traffic unit. So we have 4 retired officers looking at jobs, possibly even more than that, that have contacted, but still looking to fill the slots. And potentially looking at getting 1 in every school in the city limits that the city would cover. So Sergeant Perkins in the traffic unit receiving complaints all over the city, and the officers are working it as best they can when possible, and Sergeant Perkins has some great ideas for the traffic unit as well. The Cortico app that we talked about on last report for the police committee, more into it, it is police, fire, and dispatch friendly. Each agency would have their own platform that would have, cater to their needs, not just one platform. And it would be good for all levels, active and retired officers as well. Total cost for the app would be $18,750 per year, and anytime that adding users, that would get reconciled at the end of the contract. The app is big in the western United States, but it is migrating east, and I believe Frankfurt uses it as well, correct?
No, nobody in Kentucky.
Nobody in Kentucky, okay. I misunderstood that, so. The next big thing that is really huge is we are moving closer to becoming a ready recovery community. Follow-up visits were completed and the process is wrapping up and pending approval. Corey Council has really led the charge on this and getting Georgetown and Scott County up on this. Citizens Police Academy graduated on Tuesday, November 6th. Look for notifications about the next class coming, and if you have not been a part of that, we definitely encourage you to join the next class because it is an eye-opening experience. And in general discussion, want people to be aware that there are some scammers out there that are making phone calls and telling them that they are the police and they're going to arrest them if they don't send them money. So, you know, we're going to be looking at sending out notices, not only through the newspaper, but through other social media.
Could I follow up on that just a little?
Go right ahead.
I've had 7 or 8 people be really frightened, and I know we brought it up in police committee, but they're actually using names of our police officers and even in the sheriff's department, and they are using 502-863 numbers, and they're scaring people significantly. And I saw that you all already put something on the Georgetown Police, so thank you for doing that. But the bottom line is, for folks to know, if you're unsure, just go to the police station. Just go to the police station and they'll tell you this is a scam. It's a concerning thing for vulnerable folks, and they're asking for money. We had a teacher that was very frightened just, I think, yesterday. And I don't know how these scammers sleep at night, but it's a problem. So thank you for taking it seriously.
Sure. We also had all the, I think, 2 local news media outlets put it on.
Oh, good.
They did a story on it, and as you said, if anybody has any questions that you all talk to, just tell them to call us, because we will never call and tell you owe us money for anything. So it is a scam, but they can always call us and confirm. So.
Thank you, sir.
And then, just right quick, the 3 officers that we would request again, we had those in the budget request, and I know you all said you'd look at putting them back in if we were fully staffed. So that's been our goal by the end of December to get there. So that's why that comment was made. Hopefully we will be. And as he said, those 3 officers will be dedicated to the solely traffic unit, which we very desperately need. As far as the retired SROs, hopefully we're just waiting for the retirement board to get back with us on the 2 that we have ready to go. So as soon as we hear that, we'll have 2 of them ready. And as Councilman Stone said, we have several others that have reached out. We had a couple to send in their applications towards the end of the day that we'll start looking at tomorrow. Then the Cortico app, I think Ms. Hambrick asked us to reach out to other agencies. There are several agencies across the country that are comparable to our size. And as you'll see in law enforcement, a lot of the technology, equipment, and things like that, for some reason, happen out west. Then it makes its way out east. So we would be the first department in Kentucky to use it. I know Assistant Chief Nash has been calling other departments that they gave him They gave them 4 or 5 other contacts, so hopefully we'll have more on that to bring to you. The Recovery Ready Community, we were supposed to hear something last week. I talked to Corey this morning, so hopefully we'll hear something this week. He said they were just trying to get everybody together, everybody's schedule to have the final vote for us to move forward.
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Also, you know, and talking about the scams, it's also not just the police, and they're even using, now they even, had somebody tell me about the fire department now, they're using them, and even the IRS, and the IRS people told me, said, we don't call you, we're gonna send you a nice letter, and then, but they don't call anybody, so, you know, this is a concerning problem that's been going on for a long time, and you know, I've received one of those calls myself from somebody saying if I don't pay $12,000, you know, that I'm gonna be arrested. I said, well, you know, bring handcuffs. So, but I mean, I'm not gonna pay money to somebody I don't know, because I know that they don't do that. So, you know, we as citizens need to keep a diligent eye and ear out on this. And if you have questions, contact the IRS, contact the fire and police, and they can tell you, hey, no, we're not doing that. So, all right, next is Fire Committee? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mrs. Brent and I had our fire committee meeting on October 26th. We did not have a meeting in September, so we had quite a bit of information to cover in October. I'll try not to be long-winded.
Okay.
I'll try to make it as quick as possible and in no particular order. We have an item on our agenda shortly about renaming Opera Alley. Mrs. Brent and I were in complete agreement that it was the appropriate thing to do. There's one property owner on that street/alley, in making sure that we communicated to that property owner what our intentions are if this passes tonight. And also from a legal standpoint, making sure that we dotted our I's and crossed our T's. So I won't say a whole lot more about that until it comes up later in the agenda, but again, Mrs. Brent and I were in complete support of renaming that street. Second item, we talked about the fire training center, and you know, just trying to get a better idea if we decide to move forward, what the cost is going to be. And we're anticipating phase one, it's going to be in different phases, but we're really, if this continues to move forward, which Mrs. Brent and I, and again, if Mayor or Mrs. Brent, if you disagree with me, just say so, but I think the three of us so far have been in complete agreement that this is something we want to move forward with. But we're trying to get a better idea of what the true cost is going to be. And right now, looking at about between $150,000 to $200,000. We have applied for and received a $50,000 grant at this point in time, which would be used towards that cost. And again, won't go through a whole lot of details because we didn't take any action on that item until we can get specifics to bring back to the full council, for the council to decide whether or not this is something we want to move forward with moving forward. But it's something that would be used, ultimately, if we do this, it would be used for training. Obviously, I think it's a morale booster for our fire department, and also other city departments can use that for training as well. So I think there's some pros there that, you know, hopefully we can not just look at the surface of the total cost, but can look at the overall impact of what that could mean for the city of Georgetown and the different departments that we have in our city. So hopefully we'll gain some additional information, if all goes well, maybe before the end of this year. Third item, we have two certified firefighters that we're currently going through training to become full-fledged Georgetown Fire Department personnel. And unfortunately, I was just informed before the meeting that I believe one of the individuals is no longer a candidate. The second individual, I believe Friday of this week, will be a full-fledged.
Yes, sir. Graduation's Friday.
Graduates on Friday. So from a staffing standpoint, I believe that will leave us one short at the present time. We have one captain that has announced his intent to retire, I believe, in January. And we have at least 4 other personnel that are eligible to retire next year. Whether or not they do is a different story. We don't know yet. But right now, we've got 1 for sure. Potentially, we could have 4 more. So from a staffing standpoint at the present time, once this individual graduates this Friday, we'll be 1 short. Just a couple of small items. The fire department has applied for a grant from Norfolk Southern to get a drone. I know our police department currently has a drone. In our fire department, if all goes well, if we receive the grant, the fire department will also have a drone that can be used for many different items that it would be beneficial to the fire department if we can get that, and to the citizens of Georgetown and Scott County. I believe that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, I'm sorry for being long-winded. It was a very productive meeting. And like I said, hopefully we'll have some other information to bring back before the end of this year on what a fire training facility will cost.
And
Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Mayor, I have one
Mr.
question.
Showalter, yeah.
Chief or Mark, either one. The training facility is being used currently?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so,
We're using the grounds right now. We've had a little, and Ms. Golden can help us out with the fire commission. It's been a little hiccup here and there, just getting the funding right now. I think today we finally got the MOA sent over to them. There was some back and forth with just the verbiage, but we should have that money and be able to start rolling out with the initial phase of getting the boxes and getting ready to start stacking those. We've been using the grounds for extrication, other training out there, so we're utilizing it presently.
okay, thank you.
And one good thing about that is in talking at committee meeting, this is also a good recruiting tool. As you just found out, that, we could be losing, 4 more, possible fire people. And so, and when we have something that, of our own, that in itself, brings people in, and you wouldn't think that something of that nature would be such a big deal, but for some people coming into that occupation, they like seeing things like that. So I'm glad we're taking a step towards at least trying to get that done.
I have a quick question. Chief, what does your succession plan look like?
Mine personally?
No, not yours. Florida, Belize, Argentina. I got yours. I'm not worried about yours.
No, actually, myself, I'm thinking of that as well. I mean, we have 2 great assistant chiefs currently. One of them, unfortunately, though, is going to be one of the retirees. We have one of our fire marshal right now. He's thinking about leaving. 2 of our battalion chiefs. So it's right now the leadership is what we're looking at losing. So right now, even as of today, I had some meetings, spoke with some folks, and we're looking at those folks that we're going to try to get into those positions. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge over the next year.
Thank you.
All right. Any other committee meeting minutes, information? Any questions for anyone? Okay, let's move on now to number 8, GMWSS. And Mr. Chase, you're gonna talk about AWWPT number 2, RAS pump rebuild, process pump and seal.
So I'd like to start out by asking to please not ask me about my succession plan for myself. It's a tough
You're a
question.
lifer, I already know.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have 3 items for your consideration. The first one is a purchase order for process pump and seal We're in the process of rebuilding 3 of our 4 waste pumps at wastewater treatment plant 2. First 2 are done. This is the 3rd and the last one we're working on. So this is a purchase order in the amount of $35,193.65. This is a budgeted item, and this is, we already had a purchase order that was approved to pull the pump, inspect it, and do light rebuild maintenance on kind of what we call the soft parts, the seals, things that have to be updated over time, replaced over time. This is an additional purchase order as they've broken this pump down on hardened parts of the lute that needs to be replaced. Parts need to be recoated. So this is additional to that first purchase order. Even adding the cost up, it comes up to around $50,000 for a new pump. We're looking at $70,000 is our estimate. We've had very good luck with rebuilding pumps, so this is the recommended action. Again, this is a budgeted item, and we're recommending this to council for consideration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion carried. Now on B, South Sewer Extension Change Order Number 4.
We have 2 change orders. First, change order number 4. This is comprised of 3 parts. First is 4.1, and this is in the amount of $1,385,125. And this is the cost for decommissioning the 2 package wastewater treatment plants that are in the mobile home park that we're currently serving the property. This cost is allocated via the user agreement, which we're going to talk a lot about in change order number 5, but this cost is allocated to the ownership of the mobile home park, not Georgetown Municipal. We knew when this work was part of the project, we knew that it was going to be part of the project, but the design and permitting, it was done separately at the request of the previous owner, not AJ's, Mr. Singleton's clients, the previous owner of the mobile home park. They said they wanted their engineer to design this part of the project. That was a non-negotiable with them. So they were designing. We were in risk of losing funding on the project, so we had to go ahead and bid the project, knowing that the decommissioning would be a change order. So that is the cost. That's the first component of that's 4.1, the first component of change order number 4. Second is a master flow meter installed just downstream of the mobile home park. This will be used as part of our means as to how to accurately bill the mobile home park and the other customers that will be utilizing this sewer. This is also, again, it's spelled out in the user agreement, and this is a part of the cost that is allocated to the mobile home park owner. 4.3, this is some smaller miscellaneous items that we've accumulated through the construction period, and it totals, we had 5 additions, one credit that is a total of $5,918.98, 5918.98, and this is at the cost of Georgetown Municipal. These are our requests, a lot of them just field orders of things that came up. You have the list of those in the change order. So this change order number 4, it does come with the recommendation from the staff and the board. We have run this by these items by Mr. Keeney, and I think we have record that he has those first 2 parts that he has accepted those 2 as part of the user agreement and the mobile home parks allocation. So any questions on change order number 4?
So this change on number 4, again, what is it doing for that community?
Well, first, the decommissioning is why we're doing the project. Get rid of those 2 package treatment plants that have had a number of violations. That was pretty much the goal of the project, to eliminate those. This is the change order that actually the design is complete, the contractor has priced it, and now we're adding it to the construction contract. The second one, we're adding the flow meter because we're, while the current ownership, Flagship Properties, has installed individual water meters, we need this additional flow meter as to factor in as part of the calculation on how we will know that we're actually billing the customer. And then the others are just, like I said, those smaller miscellaneous items that have come up through the construction process.
Chase, 4.1 and 4.2 was actually in the user agreement to start with.
Correct. They are referenced in the user agreement.
The owner wanted to use his engineering staff. It was agreed on based on Kentucky Division of Water's approval. And the project went out to bid, came back prior to getting the previous owner's engineering's quote back.
Mhm.
That's why this is a change order.
Correct. Let me state that again, make sure I'm communicating this correctly. Previous owner, they wanted that decommissioning design and permitting done by their own engineer. I don't know why, but that's how it was decided. We didn't get that design until many months into the construction process and the permit that's required. So we wrote that in, that would be ultimately, that would be a change order. And we got that, and we had to bid the project. KIA was saying that they were gonna pull money if we didn't get this project started. So we knew that that was an unknown and that it would be bid, or it would be done by change order once the design of the decommissioning and the permit was completed.
Chase, did you put any amount in whatsoever for it, or did you just note it in the user agreement that this would be a change order?
We did put in an estimate on the cost allocation spreadsheet as just a placeholder.
Okay.
And I believe
All
it
right.
was just under $1 million, if I'm remembering correctly.
So this has been recommended for approval by staff and the water board?
It has.
Motion, Mayor.
Second, Mayor.
All right, motion is made by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion carried. Next.
We'll turn our attention to change order number 5, and I have a presentation up here, and Mr. Singleton has already kind of given you a very good overview of what we're trying to achieve here with change order number 5. I'd like to walk you through a brief presentation because this is kind of a complex user agreement, and it's a complex change order. So if we can just have the first slide, please. Just a brief history of the project. We started this under a previous administration. Not all the current council members were here when this was approved, but purpose of the project is, as we just talked about, change order number 4 was to get Georgetown Mobile Estates, now named Sawyer Point, onto municipal sewer through Georgetown Municipal, and eliminate those 2 packaged wastewater treatment plants. Supported by a number of agencies across the state, that this was a highly ranked project that wanted this done. And so we have pursued this project. It is, the project is, for lack of a better term, it's defined and governed via a user agreement, as Mr. Singleton said. And the parties to the user agreement are City of Georgetown, Georgetown Municipal, and the current owner of the mobile home park, which is Sawyer Point Flagship Properties. Next slide, please. This is in the southern part of the county. You can see here on the slide, I'm sorry I didn't get that graphic big enough, but you've got US 25 intersected with Lyle Road there at the county line. And I have noted they were previously, there's been different names, Spindletop Mobile Home Park, Ponderosa, now it is all Flagship Properties, Sawyer Point. And I have noted where those 2 package treatment plants are on the property. So, and those are the ones that we are trying to eliminate. And as you see here, just some pictures, you can see the condition. This is why we're doing the project. These are not suitable for ongoing use. That's kind of what the project is about. Next slide, please. So what all did this involve? It's 16,000 linear feet of new collector sewer in the mobile home park. We're eliminating the 2 package plants, and we're building a new interceptor from the park all the way back up. A KIA loan of $21.9 million, and that loan is a low-interest loan, 30-year term at 0.5% interest rate. The next slide, please. Next slide, please. Sorry. Jumping back to the user agreement, that's how we set this up, talk about who's responsible for what. And it does include the 3 parties, the utility, the city, and Flagship Properties. Currently, you know, as I said, when this was started out, it was the previous owner. It was a Wall Street conglomerate that was represented by lawyers that we talked to for months on end. Now we have a more local partner that can be here with us to help with these discussions. So the user agreement also, it defines which party pays for which part of the project. So as Mr. Singleton said, there's kind of 3 components of this project. Georgetown Municipal is responsible for contract 1A and 2. We fund those, and then Flagship Properties will, they are responsible for the the cost of contract 1B. And that's broken up by which part of the project benefits which party. So 1A and 2 benefit Georgetown Municipal. That is to our benefit, so we bear the cost of those. Contract 1B is, that is applicable to Flagship Properties, that benefits them, so they have to pay that part of the contract, the construction contracts. We also have sections, as I've emailed out, that we'll touch on here in a bit on change orders, how we address this type of request as brought to you by Mr. Singleton. And then we also, a lot of this project where it very much is a public-private partnership, we had to put in safeguards as best we could define in this user agreement, and I sent you some information on that, and one of the safeguards is a payment bond for the mobile homes portion of the of their costs for contract 1B. So that is part of the user agreement. I've sent that out to you for your review. But that's kind of in a nutshell what the user agreement is, and the construction contract documents are, again, they are part of the user agreement. Next slide, please. As mentioned, currently we have estimated on this job that we will come in just under $2 million under budget, and as the costs are allocated to the benefited party, so are the savings. So in the email, it said that we think that of the just under $2 million, the $1.98 million total project savings, just under $890,000 of that is to the benefit, and will go back to Flagship Properties, and that is through lowering of their portion of the debt service on the KIA loan. Also, of the just under $2 million, Georgetown Municipal will see, as currently projected, just over $1.1 million in savings on this construction contract. Again, that's part of the project. That's the savings on contracts 1A and 2. Any questions there? I've been talking for a minute. Any questions so far? Okay. Next slide. So we did receive a change order kind of request. This was part of an ongoing discussion, as stated, for many months on the type of pavement restoration that would occur in the mobile home park. And what was part of the contract, as dictated by the previous owner, was all that they were going to be responsible for, all they would fund, is trench width pavement restoration. That is what is currently in the contract. I'm gonna expand on all these. What we have talked about is the need with the mobile home parks request is trench width is not what they feel is appropriate. It's what the previous owner wanted. It's what they inherited when they purchased the property that was linked to this user agreement. But they've come and said, let's look at something different. So the first thing we looked at was full width pavement restoration, just associated with what we thought the cost on that was going to be, and what Flagship Properties wanted for how they want to do these roads in this property. Full width was really not appropriate, and it's not what anybody wanted. They actually want to trim down some of these roads, do off-street parking. They know how these properties are supposed to be run better than I would, but there is, for them, benefit that it just didn't work for anybody that we do this full width pavement restoration, because these roads are wide, as they've educated me, wider than they need to be, and that full width just wasn't going to work. So we've come back now and looked at what I'll kind of say is a driving lanes pavement restoration proposal, and that is where we're just going to do to get serviceable driving lanes. So if I can have the next slide, let's kind of give you a visual, because I think that's where this comes together. This is what is currently in the contract for trench width. So if you're going down the center of the street, I'm sorry I didn't bring my pointer, but our main is going down the center of the street. So we will, for the disturbed limits of that main, you'll see in red is essentially where we're going to repair. Over here, it looks like that we had more damage over here during the construction, whether that's equipment rolling on this or we didn't get a good saw cut edge. But you can just see, and then going out from the center of the street is pavement replacement for all of the service laterals that go to each slip. So this is what's in the contract, and as dictated by the previous owner. Next slide, please. This is kind of that second, or the first iteration of what was requested of a different method for restoration. This was full width. Again, this didn't really serve anybody's needs. So we went on to kind of this third, next slide please, what the mobile home park ownership has requested is this up to 28 feet width of giving them 2 drive lanes for replacement. And then on the outside of the red, anything there, that would be the mobile home park's responsibility to restore anything out up that 28 feet that is prescribed in this picture. And I think that what the plan is again to have room to do off-street parking, and I think it's to get rid of that pavement outside the 28 feet. But this gives serviceable lanes that they feel are wide enough for the traffic that's needed, and it's going, again, it's something that gives a better surface to drive on, more usable than what was in the original construction contract of the trench width. So I'll stop. Any questions there on kind of the three things that we've considered?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How does the trench width possibility hold up over time?
As far as a drivable surface, I think that there's a lot of variables there. I do feel like alternative 3 is going to provide a longer lasting solution than the trench width. And that's just based on our experience. And that's similar to, I believe it's city ordinance that kind of on city streets, this not being a city street, but we wouldn't just go through and do trench width on a city street. We'd do some version of edge-to-edge pavement restoration.
Quick comment on that. On the trench width, you went trench width plus a foot on each side of the trench.
That is correct. And that's just, we do the trench and then it's a foot on each side, and that forms, when we bring the backfill up, it's, in theory, it forms a bridge from the edge of the trench on one side to the edge of the trench on the other.
How wide is the trench itself?
How
wide is the trench itself?
It
About
just
3 feet?
depends, probably 3 feet.
So you'd have
Varies,
5 feet of pavement? basically.
Close, and I think it kind of, again, depends on how clean they kept the edges and what was disturbed along with it with the construction traffic.
So the original user agreement was to replace trench width plus laterals plus any other damage that occurred during construction.
Yes.
So by just fixing the trench, you could possibly have to go back later on and do more with that down the road.
I think that would come up.
So we could possibly revisit this again.
Is that in the user agreement? To go back and repair anything that doesn't
I think
work?
that it is more so defined in the construction contract that it has to be fixed in a manner. You know, it could be called out on warranty issues with the contractor if it's not fixed via the trench method.
But that would be the contractor's responsibility, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and not Georgetown Water or the city?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
And you saying that, so all this will be coming under the management? This is not costing the
I'll get to
citizens
that.
of Georgetown,
Mhm.
we're not paying for this, is that what you're saying?
I can't, let me get to that if you'll bear with me. Next slide, please. So, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, go back one if you don't mind. The trench width pavement restoration per the contract, that is priced in the current contract at just under $394,000. When you get down to what's being requested now, this change order for this 28-foot width, that is a $1.1 million addition. However, you do not have to, if we went with this method of restoration, the $394,000, that goes away. We're not doing that anymore. So this is a net increase, on the next slide, please, of $679,417.95. And I believe that's shown on, which page is that? Page 2 of 3, and we have in the box there, the third down, it is a net increase, $679,417.95. So that would be for the cost of this third method that we looked at, and that would be an increase on the construction contract. That part would be paid for, again, by Flagship Properties through an increase. And I say increase, it's really not because we're under budget, but that would be paid for through their part of the debt service on the 30-year loan. So as Mr. Singleton said, and we're going to get to, or I think that I actually left that out, but I was part of the email. Currently, they are $887,000 under budget on their part. So this really wouldn't, this doesn't cause an increase on the loan. This is just, again, it is an increase in that we're changing the scope, but it is paid for by Mr. Singleton's client through the debt service on the KIA loan.
Okay. So in essence, they have a savings of almost 800,000.
Almost
And you all have
900,000.
1 million, one. And instead of using the 396,000, 94,000, they want to move that away and move over and pave the street right because they're still on the hook to pay for it anyway. So they're creating that debt for themselves.
That is
with
correct.
the additional monies that they
That is
saved
correct.
anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
So it would only be less than $200,000 that they're saving, but Georgetown Water is 1.1. And they're
That is
still gonna
correct.
be billed, and that's why you're gonna do that little thing down at the bottom, so you can differentiate between their loan payment and the users of the water.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to state it, that instead of their savings being around 900,000 or their costs coming in 900,000 under budget, this change would make it come in 200,000 under budget. So that's
Thank
another
you.
way to
That
look
is
at
much
it.
more clear than what I was trying to
Well,
say.
the
I
user
apologize.
agreement is already put in place to make sure that they're gonna pay their part. And the city is doing this because only KIA can use the city municipal, and it's in the county. So the
That is
city's
correct.
carrying the debt anyway. So the user agreement is what protecting us to make sure that we're getting paid.
Correct.
Okay.
And the mechanism there is, the payment structure and the payment bond that they have to put up.
Right.
And that's, I'm gonna touch on that in a bit, but
Okay.
if we do this, we need to revise that's part of, one of the things in the user agreement we have to revise is the total, bond amount that they have to put up.
Right.
And then over time, as the loan is paid down, that bond amount is reduced. I believe it's every 5 years we recalculate what their remaining debt service is, and then they put up a new bond for that decreased amount.
Because in essence, this change order has changed the contract, and you've got to go back and fix it, and everybody sign it.
Yes.
All right.
So we're gonna get into that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is that? Okay.
Chase, the bond payments themselves, will they be made by GMWSS and Flagship, or will you make the total bond and then they will pay you?
Are you talking about repayment of the KIA?
Repayment
loan?
of the KIA loan, yes.
That is actually made by the city.
By the city?
Yes, the loan is in the city's.
Which is held in, there will be a, I guess, for lack of better terms, a surety bond to make sure that that's covered by,
So the city holds the loan.
yes.
Through GMWSS billing, they'll obviously get the rates, the actual rate, but there will be on top of that, their debt service, the mobile home parks portion of the debt service for that month. And so then the GMWSS will pass that through to us, and we will make the monthly debt service payments to KAA. That bond that they've put up is to, every 5 years it'll be revisited and reduced, because their payments will reduce the total debt owed, but we'll have that bond available in the event that they would default on their payments.
But they're already bonded. They're already under the bond anyway, even though it's the city, because they're a
Technically,
third
they're
party.
not yet.
They're not yet
The bond
because it's
has
not
to be
live.
put up when,
Right.
I believe it's, I forget whether the mechanism is the completion of the construction contract or when it goes into service. I think it's actually when it goes into service.
Well, my point in that is that they're already a partner in this. And
Yes.
they're already going to be making payments anyway. They're just adding to their portion of payment so that they can pave the road, so the citizens that live there can have a nice road to drive on.
Yes, ma'am.
So
As-
what does that do to our bond capacity? Does that lower it, reduce it?
I don't think it has
It's
anything to
already
do
bonded
with
on
our
the 2
bond
million.
capacity.
It's already bonded on the 22 million. Or would be, that's what it was priced on, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, essentially, all this is doing is making the portion that's owed to us, we need to talk about the total contract amount and where that's gonna change, but all this is doing is the amount that we thought Flagship was going to be paying us under contract 1B is now gonna be 200, assuming all these numbers shake out. There's still some project items to occur.
Right.
These are not final numbers, these are estimated final numbers, they're pretty close. But essentially, what they were going to be paying us under the user agreement is gonna be reduced by $200,000 as a result of this change order.
That's
Does
correct.
that take into consideration change order 4 as well?
Yes.
Okay, so whatever they had owed us, their total 5, 6, I forget where we were,
5.6 million.
5.6
roughly,
million is being reduced by $200,000. Once you-
Versus 900, reduction of 900,000 if we weren't doing change order
Correct.
number 5.
Correct.
So if we just did follow the user agreement, which I think was option 1, do we know what the total would be?
If we just go by,
Yeah,
the trench width,
yes.
it's just under 394,000.
No, the total project. And I know that's where I think I'm struggling, is we don't have all the final numbers in, do we?
No, we do not. The project is very close. What we have left is retrofit of one of our pump stations where the hydraulics of this project have changed. Another pump station, we've got to fix that. We've got the total restoration of the project's not complete. And there's just some, we're very close, but probably the biggest outstanding thing is we have a proposed change order from the contractor that we are negotiating. And, but that change order is not related to contract 1B. It is related to our portion. So that would come, if we approve that entire amount, it would come out of
Year 1
our
million.
savings, yes.
Right.
But that $887,000 estimate assumes that the $394,000 trench width paving is completed.
Yes, it does.
So if that were the action taken, that's pretty much the approximate number, because the bulk of the rest of the project is outside of their
About
contract.
800,000.
Pardon?
About 800,000.
Closer to
887,000.
887,000.
So 1.9 was the total savings, and 1.1 is Georgetown Municipal, and the difference is Flagship.
Yes.
And they're gonna come in under at the 679, under that 800,000, and they have a $200,000 saving. And that will do the paving, the 28
ma'am.
width.
Next slide, please. Normally, I come to council with a solid recommendation. Because this is part of an ongoing conversation and the utility board has not taken action on this yet, I kind of wanted to offer a few different options, few avenues that we could go through. And there's probably more. This is just kind of what hit me is, you know, council could consider this tonight and take a vote and not approve it. And we go forward with the contract as is with the trench width restoration. Second alternative would be council at your discretion. You could take a vote and approve this change order, and we would give the contractor the go-ahead. I don't know that it's possible that it will be done before the asphalt plants close, but as Mr. Singleton said, if we took that action, approved it, we would be ready for the new paving season as soon as possible. I would caution that if we vote to approve this tonight, there still are a handful of other documents that I could not have ready for you tonight, that you would be essentially, without having seen those documents, you'd be putting yourself on the line to approve those. So the third option would just be, and I think this is what the Flagship Properties is looking for, is we could table this decision with some direction from council that when we have all the numbers in per the user agreement, and we have a chance to update all the documents that are part of the user agreement, bring that all to you at one time, we could then, you'd have all the information once the work is done to make this decision.
And better numbers?
The final numbers. I think we're close, but again, that one change order is out there, and that's a big ticket item, so.
Okay. What is your estimated time of you thinking this is gonna be finished except for paving? That would be ready for paving?
The new pump station is already done. I think the restoration, I don't have an answer on that because I don't know if they will come back and want to do final restoration in the spring,
Oh, okay.
or if they're going to try to go ahead and do it right now. I don't
Okay.
know the answer to that currently.
Okay.
The other part is kind of, why am I bringing this to you kind of in pieces, saying, well, maybe we should wait. Another part of this that we actually, Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, in meeting with Flagship and meeting with us, they had verbally approved that this was an appropriate use of funds. We got that in writing today.
Okay.
That this
Good.
is an appropriate use of funds per the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. At the time this presentation was put together and this council packet was sent out, we did not have that in writing. But we can provide that to you, and if that helps make a decision. I think that was part of the board's hesitation. We still didn't have that in writing when we've talked to the board about this multiple times, and they've said, Chase, get it in writing. We just got that today.
Oh, that's
Chase, if I could give some direction, this is just me, but I think this is the right thing to do. Option 3, to me, is where we ought to land, since we don't have all the numbers, we don't have everything signed, we don't know all the document finalities. I think it's the safest thing to do. I worry about going forward with school buses and ambulances and fire trucks and degradation down the road, no pun intended. I also think it doesn't cost us anything. They're gonna get this done at a lower interest rate. than they might be able to do outside of the original agreement. And so I'm in support of the expanded paving scope, and I make a motion that Chase bring this back to us for approval after all these other project items are completed. So this isn't a final yes at all, and the final cost-saving amounts are defined for the various portions of the contract, 1A, 1B, and 2, and all required documents that we've been talking about and amendments, such as the user agreement, have been prepared for our approval. So this motion would simply mean, let's see it again after all of these things are approved and are documented and final costs, and at that time, option 3 in my mind looks the best at this point.
And that's the 28 width,
Yeah,
28?
28-foot width, so that's the motion on the
I struggle with saying that we would go with that. I'm fine with tabling it, holding it, and then bring it back once we have final numbers.
I'm not saying that this, I'm saying that we would bring it back, discuss it again, and then,
But you're saying, I also heard you say with option 3 as the motion. I don't like that part of it. I say table it, bring it back once you got final numbers, we'll look at it again. We've seen it several times. We'll look at it again, then we can decide.
I'll say it again, I make a motion that Chase bring this back to approval or not,
You also said, as I heard you, I may be wrong.
after all of these things
that
are figured.
Option 3 is what you were approving.
Well, it's a mirror of option 3 because it's not a disapproval and it's not a flat approval. And so it's bringing it back.
Are you referring to option 3 on this slide right here?
This slide.
This
Oh.
Below.
slide in front of us?
Yes.
I think that's what she's.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that,
Yeah,
because
that's
I thought you
what
were talking about option 3 as the full width.
Oh, no, this is,
That is
1,
option
2,
3
3
up there,
as I've just read them.
but I see what you're saying.
Table, hold, it's
Yes,
option 3.
Yes, hold, yes. I'm with you on that.
Thank-
All right, so,
I'm sorry.
Now,
Go ahead.
if you want to go ahead and ask for a second, it's fine, but I have a comment.
I
Okay,
saw
that's
2
fine.
hands go up, I'm
I'll
sorry.
second that.
well, first of all, we had a motion made by
Mrs. Hambrick
Ms.
and I.
Hamrick, and
For-
second
B,
made by Ms. Tackett.
yes.
Now we can
Potential
have,
council actions, number 3, table hold.
yeah, so,
Absolutely.
I'm with that.
so now we got a second, we got a first, we got a second, and now we have discussion.
Yes.
Okay, so now,
More discussion.
Yes.
now
And
let's
if-
talk more discussion.
If I could,
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes,
Chase, I had 3 real issues with it. 2 of them been answered. One of them was the, just having a verbal agreement. That's been answered. The other was on, we don't have total project cost yet or documents.
We do
That's
not.
been answered. That will be answered with option 3. My last question is, the change order number 4 went before the water board and got their recommendation to approve.
Yes.
Is that correct?
that is correct.
Has has change order number 5, has that same,
It has been presented 2 times officially. We've talked about it a previous meeting, and the board has not taken any action to date on the pavement restoration.
Is that because they hadn't got that thing in writing until today?
I think that it's multiple factors. I think
But
that
that's
was a
one of
big
them.
one. I think it's 2 that, similar to what council said, we don't have final costs, and they'd like to see final costs first. And then I think where this is a joint project with the city and the utility, and ultimately the city's name being on the loan, with the utility rate from the mobile home park paying the balance of that loan before the board makes a decision. That I think they did want to see what the feeling from the council is. This is different than normal. We normally bring you a supported recommendation from the board, and so far I do not have that.
okay. Mark?
Let me ask a follow-up question to that. I know you've stated that you just got some new information today. If, we got a motion and a second, and we're going to getting ready to take a vote on, to table, to hold off on this right now. will this ultimately go back to the water board for approval, either approval or denial before it comes back to city council, based on the information that's been received today?
My guess is the board is probably going to look to city council first. I can't answer that 100%. That is my guess.
Okay, so let me ask a
They
follow.
they have made it clear to me that they want to know how the city council feels about this before they set a direction.
Okay, so a follow-up question
Yes.
to that is ultimately, should this city council decide to support this project, what we're discussing tonight, is the water board going to come out with support or denial, either supporting us or not supporting us, should we decide ultimately to move forward, or do we know that at this point?
If, I don't know that at this point, because they have not taken an official vote on this yet. And so it is a possibility that the city council could support this and then the board could not. It is a possibility that the city council could support it and the board could. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Well, you said the very same three things that we're sitting up here saying, that, you know, you got from KIA in writing, and you're gonna redo the contracts and get all the numbers to us, and we all wanna see that. And so does the water board. That's their concern, and it's legitimate. But I can see and foresee that this project be finished to the complete. And they already have skin in the game, and they have a way to pay for it. So, I mean, so.
I did have one more slide, and this was,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. And this was just the remaining items. If we did want to approve change order 5, these are the list of documents that have to be updated. And this may not be, this was just looking back through the many, many pages of the user agreement. This is what stood out to me as far as we have to update the body of the user agreement because it has the construction costs. We have to update the general description in Exhibit B2 because that does reference trench width restoration. We have to exhibit our cost allocations spreadsheet, and then all of the KIA documents and loan amortization schedule. That's going to happen either way when we close out the project, when we have all the final numbers. But this is why I was saying I caution against approval tonight. I think setting direction that we want to revisit it is fine, but if you do approve it tonight, you would be approving it knowing that these all have to be approved as well. So I just want to be very clear there. These are the items that would be required along with the approval from the Board of Commissioners.
So just to follow up on what Mr. Showalter has stated, is that, so you're gonna bring this, you know, once you get all this information back, you are gonna go back to your board and actually present this back to them to look at and actually vote on? Because I think I would like to know too. I mean, I don't want to be, we're the ones saying that we'll approve this, and all of a sudden, they're against this idea. You know, they're a part of this agreement too. So,
Correct.
you know, if we all going to either be in it, or we got to do something else. That's just my feeling on that. I mean, I just want to make sure everybody's on the
I
same
think it
page.
should go back to the board before it comes back to us with all of the information that you're gonna present us.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair thing.
I agree. I feel like the board is trying to put it on us, don't you? Don't want to make
Well,
decisions.
I will defend this
But, you know,
situation
not
as
just-
different than others because typically Chase is coming to us asking for approval on contracts that are held with GMWSS. We're rubber stamping at that point, right? Because you all have already approved their budget. They're contracting with vendors. They're taking that initiative. They're GMWSS projects, whereas this is a City of Georgetown GMWSS project. We're on the line on the user agreement.
Yes, we are.
We hold the loan.
Yes.
Am I correct that we make the payments to the contractor?
Yes.
We make the payments to the contractor. We hold the contract. So
Okay.
I want to defend them in the
Okay.
sense that this is a unique thing. And I guess the question would be, well, why do they make their recommendations on the other change orders? I think the other change orders are different. I think we can all agree based on all the heavy discussion, and I think it's great discussion, that this is a little bit different of a change order. Those other ones, number 4, for example, we went into the user agreement knowing that change order was going to come back to the council. We had a placeholder cost. And those other change orders were kind of par for the course for a construction project. This one's different. So
It is different.
I think there are definite considerations to be had, but I think this is one time where I can understand the deviation from the practice of the board taking the lead. So
So this is unusual.
it's
not.
oh, this,
it's not-
this whole
this is not
project is
part of the
unusual.
norm-
No,
The
first
normal
time.
process, which is, so.
I wish
thank-
we had a city attorney present.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Give us a week.
Give us a week.
Give
we'll
us
have
a week.
But
She'll be ready.
So now that I'm clear on that, because I just
Thank
want
you.
to make
I
sure
was
that.
not clear. I apologize. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no, I
it.
just want to make sure, say, well, is this something that's normal process? Because what you brought to us in the past, it's already been cleared, and then we do it, but this is a little bit different.
This is the first one like this in my almost 6 years.
Okay. All right.
It's the only
Well,
one I've
then-
ever been in, too.
Well, now.
And I was confused there too.
Well,
That makes sense.
now it's clear as mud for me, so I'm ready to go.
we
So,
have one more muddy water.
yeah.
Muddy it.
So the change price prior to this change order is $23,262,940. With this, it will increase by $679,000. So we'll increase the debt service by $679,000.
No,
It
Wait,
increases
that's
their debt service, not ours.
No.
not the one.
No, not the loan.
Theirs.
Explain.
So, let me understand that, I think what he's asking is, so this increase is not on us.
Right.
The increase is on them.
But
So-
but the note is up to the city in it, regardless.
It is,
I
but
know it's up to them.
but the loan amount is not changing.
No.
Because the project's under budget.
So, even
If
though
this
it's.
were, if, let me put in there, if we were right at budget or we were over budget and they were asking for this, I think this is a completely different conversation.
Right.
And my guess is it would already be a hard no from our board because we'd be having to go back to KIA and ask for additional loan amount.
Right.
This is the case that we are not asking to increase the loan.
So the loan amount's gonna stay the same no matter what?
It will stay the same or it will be reduced.
So if we're under budget, we're not gonna borrow that money that we're under. If the city's under city and the utilities under 1.1 and the 1B was 900, we would not, the loan would be written, it would be written less that amount, is that correct?
That is correct.
So with this change, then to me, it adds back to that loan amount, so it increases our debt service by $679,000.
That they're responsible for? Because they're responsible for their part anyway.
You're talking about the note that the city is on their.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
We're talking about whether we would be reducing that by 887 or roughly 200,000. That's the difference. I think it's either way, we're borrowing less than the 21.9 million. It's just how much less are we borrowing?
So I go back to your question about how our capacity is impacted. So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy, this is revenue-backed borrowing. So that,
Hopefully we'll have a new fiscal agent very soon, that will be able to help answer these, but my understanding is revenue bonds do not affect our bonding capacity.
Right.
But we still have debt service on it.
Well,
With revenue coming
we're
in to
not
pay for it.
paying the debt on this, like, this is not coming out of the city's budget, this debt service. The city's budget is not paying for the debt service on this KIA loan at all. Right now, GMWSS is making the interest payments until the loan closes and we have principal due. So
Then after that happens.
even though we hold the loan because of how this agreement was negotiated through KIA, we are not budgeting for the debt service.
Okay.
The loan's in our name, but we do not pay the debt service.
We need to talk to a fiscal agent. Just, yeah,
Can I muddy the water just a little bit more?
there is.
That $1.1 million savings that Georgetown Municipal Water has saved, is there any way that you can use that money to anything else, or does it have to pertain to just this one project?
Just this one.
Okay. Don't know till you ask.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going with that one. Can we use the factually offset? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the loan payments are either paid through the rates from users or, I believe,
Okay,
through the
I got you.
private part.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see why
So-
that wouldn't.
All right, somebody, yes, Mark.
All right. One last question, and I think this is an important question for all of us, as well as people here in the audience and people that might either read about this or see it on social media. With what happened in the recent past, I just want you to confirm there's absolutely no risk for the current GMWSS users in this community right now that are using sewer and or water. There's no risk.
We have built in every assurance. I don't know what the case would be that, short of the ownership defaulting and the payment bond not being secured, I don't know what that situation would be.
I guess the fiscal agent would be the person to answer this, but the loan is based on the amount of money that you're gonna receive from the people that live there to pay the loan, based on the usage.
The monthly payment is comprised of two parts. It is a usage component and a debt service component.
Okay.
And that is what pays their portion of, well, their debt service payment is what pays the loan back, and that is what we're requiring a payment bond for. I don't know of any other. We put in every safeguard. Does that mean that it's 100% that there's some scenario where I don't know the answer.
Is there a lien against their portion for the debt?
That's what the payment bond is for.
Okay.
So based on the amount that, so the 5.6 million or whatever
Yeah.
it started out as, at the beginning of, once we start making payments on the loan, not just the interest payments, once it goes online, their monthly payment will slowly reduce that amount, and every 5 years that amount will be,
The
you know,
bond payment will.
right, it'll
Okay.
be kind of justified to
Okay.
fit the cost.
Right.
I don't know how to answer that question that I can guarantee 100% standing here that nothing could ever happen here. I think we've put in every safeguard we can.
Okay, well, we've had all the, motion, we had a second, and we've had a lengthy discussion. And at this time, are there any more discussion or question? All right, I think the motion, if I remember it, is that we want to table this until we get information, then bring it back to the council.
Correct.
Okay, so.
Almost like a finished product.
I got it, yes, like kids creative.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chase. All right. Next, the Chief Administrative Officer, the municipal order approving a contract for physical agent / financial advisor and Robert W. Byrd and Beard and Company Incorporated.
So as mentioned many times in the GMWSS segment, we've got Baird here. You've seen Chip many times, I'm sure, because Chip and his team helped navigate the most recent bonding for GMWSS, and they did a great job. As mentioned in the council committee reports, we evaluated 3 firms, interviewed those firms, and reviewed their qualifications. 3 very impressive firms, and tonight the recommendation is that the council approve Baird as our fiscal agent. You received a contract in your packet. We've talked to Chip and his team about that in good detail and are excited to move forward. We actually already have a kickoff meeting scheduled with them for tomorrow, so we'll hit the ground running, and I know Chip's here and ready to answer questions.
I get it. I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion is made by Councilman Tackett and Councilman Allen second. I need, we all gonna be just not sit together. Are there further questions and or comments? Yes, sir.
Sorry, Stacy, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
One of the documents that you left us tonight, or that I guess Devin handed out, was the our investments right now at the present time?
Yeah,
And I know about 2 weeks ago, you had sent some information out. This information looks better than what you sent out 2 weeks ago.
yeah,
So is this completely accurate?
yes. I mean, it is property tax season, we're collecting additional
Okay, so
money.
is-
So, just, that's a daily cash, remember, that's
Okay.
daily. I mean, you know, our cash fluctuates on a daily basis. So
So-
I literally went to the bank account and pulled the daily cash amount, so please understand that can fluctuate, especially when we're in property tax season, collecting, if it happens to be the end of a quarter and we've collected our insurance premium and our alcoholic beverage, our cash can fluctuate.
So
But yes.
am I assuming correctly, and again, I don't mean to bypass the finance committee and the mayor, is ultimately is the intent here, is it our intent, because I know Mrs. Hambrick and I've talked about it extensively, to try to move some more money over into a higher
Yes.
rate of return?
We've been saying all along, after we made the initial investment in June, that we wanted to get our fiscal agent under contract, determine how much in capital needs we have that we might want to bond all or a portion of. And then once we've decided how much cash exactly we're gonna have left, because we may or may not bond all of City Hall. We may part of it with cash, we may do part of it with bonding. That's what our fiscal agent will help us determine. Then we will discuss. What they will help us do is not manage the investments themselves, but they will help us determine how much cash flow we have to invest. So, and then we'll go out and make those investments or do.
So
Go ahead.
were you getting ready to ask a question? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Once we get, assuming that this is approved,
Yes.
don't want to get ahead of myself. Will this be something that we get back before the end of I mean, I know we're coming up towards the end of the year,
I mean,
quick.
as quickly, we will have to, they're gonna sit down with us, they're gonna analyze our capital needs, they're gonna analyze cash in the bank, they're gonna analyze our annual revenues, and we're gonna make best recommendations on how much cash can we spend down, how much do we need to keep in reserves, how much can we invest and potentially for how long before we need that cash flow back. So, I mean, I would say, I mean, I don't want to make you promises that you're going to have it before Christmas, but very early in the new year, I would think.
Okay, so realistically, hopefully,
Yeah, January to
no later,
February, I would hope.
early February,
we
maybe
can
at the
start
latest?
talking about it. I mean, obviously a bond issue will take long, but I don't know exactly. We're going to hit the
Okay.
ground running tomorrow, and as quickly as we can
Okay.
move, we will.
I will say, just as a follow-up, that every day we delay taking millions and millions of dollars, even for 30-day CDs with no penalties, it's money the city, in my mind, is
Losing.
losing.
I agree.
And I know that I've been a broken record on this for 3 months now, but it's 3 months of a lack of interest that we've not, at a time when interest rates are up.
I'll follow up to that by saying, as I said in the previous council meeting, we don't want to invest all this money at once. We want to stagger it so that we have some coming due when we need it.
And Stacy,
Yeah.
Follow up to that question, because we're in November, and we started talking about this in January. So again, I don't mean any disrespect at all.
We invested the initial money in June. We're coming up on the first of the year where we could do another investment at 6 months. That way, it would be coming due.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree.
Stacy, aren't we contracted with Stockyards to do
Yes.
financial? Are we paying them for the very same thing?
No, this is not. This is not investment management. Stockyards, we did an RFQ specifically for that $5 million. Stockyards is managing the $5 million that council approved. Obviously, I cannot do anything without council approval per the investment policy. So I understand we've got to bring those back for council approval. Fiscal agents help you with long-term capital financial planning. They are not investment managers, they're not gonna go out and buy and sell US Treasuries. Stockyards goes out, we give Stockyards $5 million, they go out and buy and sell US Treasuries and help us get the best interest rate. What a fiscal agent does, number one, you pretty much have to have a fiscal agent if you're gonna do a bond issue. They go out, they put that to market, they put bond issues to bid. It is two separate things. Also with Stockyards, the way we wrote our investment policy says we cannot have more than 50% of our investments at any one financial institution. So if we do another $5 million, as of right now, it can't go to Stockyards. So, so we will look at that, but it is not the same thing. One is buying and selling CDs, treasuries, etc. This is about long-term capital financial planning and issuing debt service.
And Stacy, so if we was to think about doing another $5 million, we would have to go through the process again, of putting it out there for somebody to come back.
We don't have to put it out to bid. That's something we were gonna talk about with Finance Committee. We can, I've already mentioned to Whitaker, I've asked them to send me some information about their CD program to look at another local financial institution. So hopefully I'll have that soon to bring to our next Finance Committee meeting, and we can start.
Okay.
Yeah, so Baird Services, when you talk about a fiscal agent, Baird could meet with us 50 times and talk to us about how much, all our capital needs, what's a healthy amount of reserves to keep on file, what kind of bandwidth we have, what kind of play we have to invest. They're not gonna say, here's what you should do with your investments. They're gonna say, here's a safe amount to tie up for 12 months. Those are things they're gonna do, but when we engage with them, if you read this part of the contract, we don't pay them until we when we go to the bond market. So until we take on that bond, they don't get paid. They're doing all this legwork and engaging with us and helping us make the right decisions and helping us assess our capital needs, and then they get paid. So their role is not going to be to say, well, we think you should go to central bank and give them $4 million for X amount of time. They're going to tell us how much money we can safely invest, and we have to take it from there. So I think getting them on board and understanding with our existing reserves and with our intentions, I think we can pretty quickly get an idea of how much room we have to invest and get out there and be aggressive, and how much we need to sit on in order to meet that debt service and move forward with those capital needs quickly.
And I guess once we get that all done, then I guess then we can go talk about, we can go about and get $5 million or whatever, and actually say, let's go and invest this at that time.
It's a process.
Okay, so,
Got a first and a second?
we had a motion and a second, and we had discussion. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion carried. Next, the update for the developmental impact fee consultant process update.
Yes, so I won't keep you all too long on this one. This is just an update because I kind of anticipated that it would be on the agenda for approval tonight. Stacy and I have had some good discussions with the consultant that won the RFQ process. The consultant firm is called Tischler Bice. Once again, still subject to council's approval. That was just the committee's recommendation of the most qualified firm to submit their credentials. Still working on the finer points of that contract, but I think we're 90% of the way there. So I don't see any reason why that won't be before the council for approval at the next meeting. Like I said, they seem to be comfortable with a timeline of around April to be completed, which is plenty of time. I think that was a little quicker than I anticipated, actually. I kind of thought it was going to be more of a six to 8 month process, but when we bring that contract, it'll come with the detailed scope of work that'll tell you exactly how many city council meetings they'll be presenting they'll be presenting at, the kind of public engagement, which when I say public, I mean the development community engagement they'll be doing. And it'll go through one unique thing of the scope of work that I like is that, you can include a lot of different things in a development impact fee, and they've done it across the gamut where they've included water and sewer, stormwater, roads, police, fire. So we kind of created a little bit of an à la carte. There are some services that they're gonna engage with us. It's gonna go across the board, but once we get into the exercise and they start reviewing our information and our comprehensive plan on our geography and our growth projections, we can see, do each of those make sense? Is it worth including that in the process? So that you'll see kind of an à la carte that the way we've asked them to write it, when we get to that point in the process, the council would have the ability to say, I really don't want that item in there, could you take that out? And then their fee would be accordingly reduced. So excited about that. I think there's gonna be a lot of good information at the next meeting about it. And I think you all will have the opportunity to approve that contract.
All right. That's just simply an update. Thank you. Next, we've got discussion of the draft amendment to Georgetown, Scott County, CRC related code provision.
Yes, same thing. Wanted to keep this on the radar and show you all. You've got a draft in front of you. The only thing that is not in this draft ordinance that I think we've talked about is that provision regarding publication of a non-compliant business list. And the Revenue Commission met on this, well, not just on this topic, they met last week, and one of the discussion points was submitting this question to the Attorney General's office to make sure that we're, one, lawfully able to do this, which we have no reason to believe we're not, but two, to make sure we're approaching it in terms of notice, opportunity to contest, and then making sure our processes are defensible. The other jurisdictions that are publishing a non-compliance list, it sounds like didn't do so through ordinance. It sounds like they kind of just did it as an internal practice, which I don't think is a very, I don't think that would be the best move for us. So Jessica at the Revenue Commission has submitted that to the Attorney General's office, and I think she went ahead and submitted, her recommended opinion, so they can either agree and stamp that or provide other information. But I still think you don't know how long that will take, so I think we should go ahead and have first reading of this at the next meeting, and when we hear back from the Attorney General, we can come back and amend and add that portion. But I wanted to provide this. If in the next 2 weeks you all have any questions about this draft or see any room for improvement, let me know. And I'll gladly look into that and make any revisions. These are primarily recommendations made by the Revenue Commission based on the language in other cities' codes of ordinances. So just wanted to provide this to let you know that this is on the radar, and assuming everything goes well for first and second read, it'll be approved end of the year, and it'll be a good way to start 2024, with that culture of compliance that we've talked about. So welcome any feedback on that in the next couple weeks, but we'll have it for first read at the next meeting.
So if we ultimately move forward with this, we would have first and second reading, and then we would also, in that timeframe, we would wait for the AG opinion, which may either allow us to keep it going, or maybe we have to come back and rewrite it.
We would just treat it like another amendment. I mean, it would be ultimately later it all gets codified anyways, but we would just come back with another amendment to add that language.
Okay, so if we continue to move this forward, whatever date that we ultimately decide to put it in play or to make it effective, it's moving forward.
Right.
Not going back.
Yes.
It's moving forward.
Right.
And then do we have an idea, whether precise or a rough idea, of what type of additional revenue this is going to capture?
I would say there's no way of telling
No.
what
That's
this
what
could capture. Obviously our goal is to increase reporting. Like the Revenue Commission talked the other day about that 51%. And when we say non-compliant in that sense, we don't know if they owe anything. I mean, at least some of them do for sure, but we have no way of knowing because they've not filed what they owe. These provisions here, if you read through them, it just kind of provides that local, emphasis on things that are already unlawful. Nothing in here is new in the sense of it's just on a local level, we're giving them at the Revenue Commission the teeth to cite to local code as opposed to the Internal Revenue Code, which is, some foreign principle. But this is really just a step to give the Revenue Commission tools to improve that number. I think a reasonable goal would just be to see that number reduced, every year.
that Scott, Jessica, and the three commissioners are all in support.
Oh, absolutely.
of us
I'm one of those, absolutely. That's why we put it in place. Absolutely.
Hey,
That's why,
Devin.
that is why we're going to get the Attorney General's opinion, because we think that, you know, we don't know how much money is on the table, we don't know that, but it is better what we're doing now. Right now, we're just leaving everything out. You know, lawfully, they're supposed to be doing this. This is the local law that we have, and if they're not doing that and somebody else is, we want to make sure that everybody is doing it. Like I said, you know, you're going to get a few, but, you know, it's a few more is better than what we're getting now, you know. So hopefully we can get them to comply, and we get this list published out, you know, after we give them some warnings and get it out to them, that, hey, you need to pay your fair share of this and do what you're supposed to be doing. That is within the law that you should be doing anyway.
So Devin, everything underlined is what you've written?
Yes, so if
Okay.
it's bold and underlined, that's new language.
Okay.
If it's not bold or underlined, it's existing language in our code.
All right.
And so I've only included the sections that are either being added or amended. So
Okay.
there's a lot of language in our code, and I can share that with you all if you'd like, but this is all additional.
No, I'm good.
No. Light reading?
Light reading. My eyes are scratchy right now.
I guess if I'm having trouble sleeping, I just, you know, start reading that, right? Is that it?
Good talk.
Okay, next, a municipal order approving white flag shelter costs.
So this one, I know I've talked to a handful of you all about this. So the White Flag Shelter, and there's going to be a lot of public notices and information going out about this, but the principle of the White Flag Shelter is that anytime there's really hot weather during a day or really cold weather during a night, we want to provide a place where those unsheltered individuals in our community can be safe. You probably have heard it called the cold weather shelter. I ask that everybody try to say white flag so that our marketing and messaging can be successful. This is something that we began through EMA a few years ago, and then the Gathering Place kind of jumped in as a partner. The city and county, through the EMA budget, do help fund the operation of the White Flag Shelter. But one thing that's not addressed is the cost tonight, where capacity issues, safety issues were coming into play with the existing buildings, and a solution was presented where, you know, the learning cottages that they have at schools when they need extra space, Scott County Schools was able to give us one of those learning cottages, but there was a decent amount of cost associated with moving it and pouring footers and getting it connected to water and sewer and meeting code and all of those things. And that's the cost that you're being asked to approve tonight. This is a joint project with the county. It's $12,000 for the city, $12,000 for the county. And this will, Candace couldn't be here tonight. She's actually at a conference in New Orleans, free of charge to the city. That she was fortunate to be invited to that through Scott County Schools, I believe it was. But I asked her for some information just to make sure I understood. But the unit will be split into two. One side is women and children, and one side is men. It will free up space within the Gathering Place locations to offer more beds for their programs. And the White Flag Shelter will be completely out of their buildings proper. So it will be in the learning cottage. Once it's in place, they'll handle all the outfitting costs. The Gathering Place will. Our only responsibility was getting it placed. So when they're not using it for White Flag, they will use it for their general programming, but it will be both hot and cold weather. But I know part of our messaging too is to make sure everybody understands, since it is local government funded in part, there are no barriers to this shelter. You know, obviously the Gathering Place is allowed to impose barriers to their own locations, but since it's funded through us, they understand, and the messaging promotes that there are no barriers to this shelter. Show up and in need, and you will be served. So it's a really good project. We had to hustle on it because cold weather came at us fast. But any questions? Glad to take them.
I have a question. How many would it hold?
Fire Chief, you got that one?
We've been working with Candace to get a number on that. It's going through state building right now just to get all that done. Our fire marshal's actually working on those numbers right now.
Okay. it's a pretty significant number, I thought.
It's 4,000 square feet, I think is what the total.
I was getting ready to ask
Right.
you what the square footage is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty significant,
that's-
significantly more than they were providing
Yeah.
before.
That's good.
Motion, Mayor?
All right, motion is made by Ms. Tackett, second by Ms. Conway. Are there further discussion and/or comments?
Yeah, I wanna know, like, what are the hours and what is the temperature that the
Yes,
people are?
I wish I had the flyer. I will share the flyer with the full council via email. I don't want to say the hard figures. It's below 32 degrees. That's when we start funding it. There's a different temperature that they open it, but the funding kicks in at 32 degrees. So I think they open it at a higher temperature,
I think
but
it's at 40?
it might have been 40.
Under 40?
I'll get those figures to you all. I know the flyer just got finalized. And then it's on cold weather nights, I believe it's 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then on hot weather days, it might be just the opposite. I'll get that information out to you all.
And when you were talking about the barriers, that means that even if they weren't allowed to be in the gathering place, they're gonna be able to be under the.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanna
That's
make sure
correct.
that's
Yes,
known
yes,
because
yes.
that's been an issue.
Yes, that was an issue, and I think we addressed that when talked with them, and they understood that, since we're funding it and we're putting it together, that this is open to anybody, no judgment made. If they need a shelter and we got
Let 'em
room,
have
need to
shelter.
make sure they get that.
And since it's new to me or whatever, who is actually over the white flag show? I mean, who is the board or who?
So the Gathering Place's executive director's name is Denise Burkhead. She, I don't know that she's been in that role more than but a year or two. She's doing a really good job. She's been coordinating really well with Candace. I know Candace really appreciates that relationship. And, we're talking about some barriers largely related to substance abuse and things like that. And she's, like I said, she's done a wonderful job working with Candace to get this moving, and they're thrilled to be a partner. So thanks to Denise. I know she's got a really good board right now. So they administer the program.
Okay.
We help fund the staffing of the location when it reaches that threshold, that 32 degrees. And that's already budgeted through EMA.
I mean, do we have any say or can we?
Like what kind of say?
Well, I don't even mean to say, but, I'm trying to think the words I'm gonna use. I don't know. Just, they're the ones that come up with the temperature, the hours. I mean, do we have any
No, we came up with that 32. So this started through Judge Covington, and this was in the last administration. Judge Covington and I were meeting with local groups. This is kind of how Candace's office came to be. And one of the things that group talked about as an acute need is the fact that we don't have any emergency shelter specifically on cold weather nights. And so this started, Mike Hennigan through EMA was really instrumental in working on a contract. Originally, we were working out of the basement of a local church. And that,
The Presbyterian.
and it wasn't working out. It wasn't to anybody's fault. But Gathering Place stepped in and offered to help, and we worked out a contract, and that's how this kind of came to light. So those temperature thresholds and things like that, those were local government established. Those were established through EMA. So we absolutely have a say through that contract with EMA. EMA is county administered, so largely they take care of that portion, and then the council joins in the funding.
Chain of thought here, okay.
Motion and a second already.
Motion and second, and then we have any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Next, the city engineer is up. Municipal order approving final change order for West Main Street project.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first one on the list, the municipal order for the final change orders for the West Main Street project, that's the TAP grant project, the sidewalks over the Royal Springs Aqueduct is, the project's complete. We finished the last of the change order items and balanced out all the quantities and asking for approval of the final change order to close out the project, administratively close out the project in the amount of $17,496.23.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Ms. Tackett,
Second, Mayor.
second made by Mr. Stone. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Next, municipal order approving the change order for number 5 Cardinal Drive project.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is a change order deduct for, change order number 5 for the Cardinal Drive project. The work is complete out there. They're putting the final touches on a few things, but this is a deduct of $6,500 for a streetlight fixture that was not needed on the project, and so it's a deduct, a credit for the project.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, don't get those very often, right?
I'll second.
Had no problem with that one, do we? We ain't getting money, but my hands go up. It's like giving kids candy and
aluminum light pole lady?
All right, let's go back with this. Now, who was first here? Okay, let's see. Let's pick one. Okay, Mr. Allen was first on the agenda, so Mr. Allen made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise.
Just a quick update on the colony. We are moving forward with that project, and we've submitted an application to the state for an encroachment permit. That's step 1, and then we have an engineering firm that is going to help us, with the design plans and all that, and then we'll be bidding the project out just like we normally would. So that's well on its way.
Did we get permission to move the light?
That's what, when they do
What's
the
the
ground
permit for?
survey and they take all their shots on the ground,
Okay.
we'll be able to determine whether we have to move that or not.
Okay.
Hopefully, we can keep it there. That'll really save us some time. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
And it'll go from where the sign is, that's where we'll cut in and cut into the island. We don't want to buy a new sign out there, just, that's where we'll kind of taper in and build a right lane out and a left lane out, so the cars can move easier. That's coming out of the subdivision onto 25.
That will be a much needed
Yeah, so we're
addition.
moving as fast as we can on that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
All right, finance. Okay, next is the second reading of the year 2024 budget amendment ordinance. Sponsors Alonzo Allen and Greg Hampton.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. Summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $609,760.50. General government expenses are increased by $77,750. Police expenses are increased by $185,353. Fire expenses are increased by $23,919. City engineer expenses are increased by $29,500. Capital expenditures are increased by $115,000. Transfers to other funds are increased by $178,254.50. Business park fund. Prior revenues are increased by $195,798. Utility expenses are increased by $195,798. 911 fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $14,150. Dispatch 911 expenses are increased by $28,300. MAP funds. Prior revenues are increased by $1,383,265. Capital expenses are increased by $1,383,265. LGEA fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $75,281. Public works expense are increased by $75,281. Drug fund. Prior year revenues are decreased by $13,322.54. Police expenses are decreased by $13,322.54. Grant fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $20,842.67. State grant revenue is increased by $50,000. Federal grant revenue is increased by $4,512,336.83. Police expenses are increased by $31,470.50. Fire expenses are increased by $289,182. Capital expenses are increased by $4,262,527. ARPA fund. Federal grant revenue is decreased by $478,403. Fire expenses are increased by $6,000. Stormwater expenses are increased by $32,191. Community service expenses are increased by $95,692. Interlocal expenses are decreased by $512,242. Capital expenses are decreased by $100,044. Environmental services fund. Stormwater expenses are increased by $150,405. Transfers from other funds are increased by $150,405. Cemetery fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $27,849.50. Transfers from other funds are increased by $27,849.50. Cemetery expenses are increased by $55,699. Capital projects fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $268,118. Loan proceeds are decreased by $1,276,885. Capital expenses are decreased by $1,008,767. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time October 23rd, 2023. Publicly read the second time November 13th, 2023.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and or discussion? At this time, Madam Clerk, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter? Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brent?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion is unanimously carried. And now we're ready to do the quarterly financial update.
Yes.
Okay.
What about the resolution for the, oh, my bad. Listen, I went too far
It's
down,
okay.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sleepy.
No, we'll start out with going over
So
the
here.
revenue sheet that I give you each quarter. So you can see, the first one is payroll taxes. And just a quick highlight, you can see where we ended last year at 17.3 million. We have so far collected 4.255 million. We budgeted 16 million, so we're at about 27% of our budget a quarter through the year. And we're about 78,000 ahead of where we were at this time last year. So doing pretty good, tracking pretty well on payroll taxes. With net profits, I always try to, every time I get up here, remind that at the end of the year, the reason you see the negative is because June 30th, during our audit, the Revenue Commission gives us the number of all businesses who have credits on their tax returns. So that always shows a negative revenue in June. We hope we will get to recognize that net revenue in the new year, so that's why July looks so high. So currently, with that revenue factored in, we're at 1.7. But as you can see, we ended the year with 2.9. We did budget 2.5 this year, so our net profits are probably trending a little higher than we've anticipated. So that is good. We will move on to insurance premium tax collections. And you can see again, we have ended last year with 6.7 million. We have so far collected 1.679 million on a $6.3 million budget, which is 27% of our budget. Again, your quarter in, we're right on track. We're about 219,000 ahead of where we were at this time last year.
Stacy?
Yes.
May I?
Yes.
Very quick. In October, it looks like we had over just north of $1 million in
Yes.
insurance premium versus 295 in fiscal 23 and 285.
Yes.
Can you sort of?
It is timing of when
Timing.
the returns
Okay.
are filed. So when the quarter ends September 30th, the returns are due by October 31st. So some people file, and again, if returns come in the mail October 31st, or they're postmarked October 31st, we may not get them until November. So that's why some of those deposits are shown. So it's just a timing of when they turn those in. Comparatively for the quarter, we're 200,000 ahead. So with insurance premiums, with alcoholic beverage, you definitely want to look at the quarter as a whole, because the timing of when the return is received could affect that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, property tax collections, obviously we're very early in that. At the time that this ended for this quarter, we really hadn't sent out our bills and started collecting the new year taxes. So the 17,569 is prior year taxes that were collected in the first few months of the year. So that is keeping Tracy's office busy right now. So through January, you will see the bulk of our property tax revenue come in. And lastly, alcoholic beverage regulatory fees. So far, unless there's some late returns, we have collected $330,196, and I didn't get a chance to ask Tracy if there were any late filers, because it is down about 25,000 from this quarter last year. So that is the update on the revenues. I did have a couple of other things that I wanted to, of course, you always have your detailed budget that has all the revenues and expenses line item by line item. So you can go through that, but a couple of notes I wanted to make. We just finished up our audit field work for the fiscal year 23 audit, trying to get it out of the way a little bit earlier this year. So I have some more final numbers on fiscal year 23 than I've had, so I wanted to just let you know. We ended, even though your cash sheet shows 33 million in the bank, obviously we have liabilities, we have payables. So fiscal year 23, we ended with 31.1 million fund balance. Our current year budget, as adopted, was 1,378,000 deficit. That's what we adopted. 1,378,000 and change. That is what we adopted our fiscal year 24 budget. And then with the amendment that you just approved, that goes to 3,878,000 deficit. Now, again, that was because we had the increase on the EMS. We carried over close to 400,000 of expenses from last year that didn't get spent in last year's budget. But overall, our revenues were up. We increased our fund balance last year by 3.7 million from a combination of revenues outperforming the budget, and as the mayor has said before, with vacancies in certain departments. So I just wanted to give you kind of that update on how the overall picture looked now that we've gotten all those audit adjustments out of the way. And then again, as Mark pointed out earlier, I've given you an update on the sheet that was emailed out previously, showing where our general unrestricted cash is held. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that. And as Councilman Hampton mentioned earlier, as soon as we'll have our first kickoff meeting with our fiscal agent tomorrow, and we will hit the ground running on that future planning. So, yes.
The announcement that Toyota made this within
Yes.
the past 2 weeks for the
Yes, the raises, yes.
positive news that came out.
Yes.
This was what every Toyota employee throughout the United States. Well, that additional occupational tax revenue that will come to the city as a result of that news.
Yes.
Will that hit in January or will that hit in February, or do we know yet?
I don't know the timing on that. Devin may know.
The raises are effective January 1, from what I understand.
Okay.
We're anticipating an additional 800,000.
700,000 to 800,000.
Over the course of the year. So we will obviously, we always do, but we will, of course, analyze all of our revenues in the mid-year amendment, see how they're performing. If our revenues look like they're outperforming the budget, we will go ahead in that mid-year amendment and increase those revenues so that we hopefully can reduce that deficit that's reflected. We'll take into account the additional Toyota revenue and any other measures that we're looking at taking in. So, any other questions? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always. Okay, next, we have the fire and resolution changing Opera Alley to Lido Way.
Mayor, council, I know you all have the resolution proclamation in front of you. I'm humbly asking this request for firefighter Norman Lytle. He served our city for 20 years, and I can't think of a better way to honor him than to name Opera Alley, change it to Lytle Way. He served out of Station 1 for many, many years, and it's one of the things I think I wrote in the proposal was, you know, Water Street's going to be the hub for entertainment, food, and that's what Norm really enjoyed. He was a very outgoing person. He's a mentor to me. Chief Bruin, I know he thinks very well of him as well, and just all the men and women that he ever came across. He was, you know, he touched our lives. I promised his wife Sonny we wouldn't forget him, and this is a way that we can ensure that happens. He's I actually sent the link to the meeting, so Sonny's watching right now.
Aw.
Mayor, somebody that worked with Norm, you know, I'd make a motion for that.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Stone.
I'll second. You do a second.
Let's arm wrestle. Okay, so, Ms. Conway, second. Okay, you win. All right, are there further questions and or comment? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion pass.
All right, thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You don't want to change it to BJ Way or something like that?
I'm thinking Connie Way.
Connie Way? No, I think that's what
Way,
we're doing
way,
is really good.
It is.
All right, Police Department dispatch municipal order approving surplus.
I know Chief's coming to the podium, but you'll see in your municipal order that portion of this is going to be given to Sadieville. They've requested radios that when we did our P25 project a few years ago, these radios are no longer compatible with our equipment and in use, so those would be donated to that department after surplus, and then the rest of the items will be sold via public auction. The police department's done a lot of, they did their patrol upgrades, they've upgraded a lot of their office space, so some of it is just office furniture that is no longer in circulation.
I make a motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Ms. Tackett,
Second.
second made by Ms. Hamburg. Are there further questions and or comments or discussion?
Good, give it to Sadie.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed.
Chief, do you want to take the lead on this? I know it's not on the agenda. As you know, if it's a regular meeting, we are able to walk items onto the agenda if necessary, and we've got one for discussion and approval tonight. I'll let you talk about the finer details, but if anybody who's been on council for a while remembers, sometimes we refer to purchases being paid for through the drug fund. We haven't had an influx of money to the drug fund for a while, but the way that pot of money was developed is that Georgetown Police Department officer in the past was assigned to the DEA, and through that, any funds seized through their efforts, we get a percentage, our department does. So we're in a position now where we do have a detective who is part-time on a DEA task force, and they have requested, I'll brag on our department, they've handpicked him and requested that he come on full-time to this task force. There are other departments apparently begging for the opportunity, and they want our guy. So since it would be pulling him out of our full-time rotation, he'll still be serving, he'll still be assigned cases through GPD, he'll still be serving our city, and he'll be on call his allocated number of times per month, but thought it appropriate for the council to express consent for the assignment. Excited at the prospect of pulling in more funds through this. We get 3% of all, is it every project he's involved in?
Yes, at least 3%.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So that detective is Bill Brislin, and as Devin said, it's a very unique opportunity for us. If it be a detective that I know that could do the double duty, it's Bill Brislin. Just a quick background, he has over 20 years experience from Lexington, robbery, homicide. He's been with us for a couple years now. As she said, we were presented the opportunity to move him to full-time. The supervisor over the DEA unit is pretty much, as he expressed, got to handpick his all-star team. So Detective Brisson will still do cases here for GPD. He'll still be on call, so our detectives rotate, so they're on call for once a week. And then it goes to somebody else. So he'll still be on call. He'll still take cases through our department, and he'll also help out with cases that he could be able to use his resources and his intelligence and things like that through the DEA that may be tied back to Georgetown. As we said, we're entitled to a minimum of 3% for the investigations. There's no hurdles or anything like that that we would have to go through. Just for context, in terms of the financial return, we're going to get $2,100 very soon because of just of a case where he just went and simply picked up a money drop for this past weekend. Of course, he's undercover. That'll be GPD, the police department's share. There's other prior investigations that he was a part of that will be resulting in money that we will get in the near future. In terms of liability, workers' comp, things like that, the DEA, if he works overtime, they will pay for that. If something happens to him, and God forbid, in the line of duty, he's covered through Department of Justice for the cases and things like that done while he's on the task force. His gun-related crimes that he worked, they're going to be evenly distributed amongst the detectives. And also where he did the NIBIN, where he would go down to Lexington and they're able to analyze the guns and the shell casings and things like that. Pretty sure evidence custodian Mather is going to do that. So we're not going to skip a beat. Just so you know, there's two other agencies very close to us. They threw a couple little numbers at us. They have received over $1 million within a 2-year period just by having one of their guys assigned full-time. So I know the Detective Brisson's work ethic. I know he's going to work. He's one of those you have to say, hey, shut the light off and go home. Like I said, I know he'll be able to do the duties here for Georgetown, but I think this will be a great opportunity for us going forward.
And to give you all an idea on stuff that has happened in the past, it's not just cases that occur in Georgetown or even in Lexington or Central Kentucky. In the past, officers assigned to that task force have been, and Georgetown has received money. Stuff that's happened in California, New Mexico, Texas, even Florida, as it comes and works into it. If they work on the case, then they get part of the reward. So
Fantastic.
it's a good thing.
All right.
So like I said, it's not an agenda item, really just wanted a motion to support the assignment from the council and an expression of the council's approval.
Okay, so we've made a motion made by Ms. Tackett, second by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and/or comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we now got a guy on DEA, so that's good. Next, we have council comments. And at this time, I'm just gonna start with Mr. Stone.
Mayor, I don't have anything tonight. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Ms. Tackett.
I'm gonna say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It's a good meeting, and thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Mr. Allen.
Couple of things. I'd like to request that the Affordable Housing and Homeless Prevention Director present a strategy in the first meeting in December. So
She normally give a update sometime quarterly anyway, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's slated to do quarterly updates.
Okay, and now just make sure she just put that in her report.
yeah, so a strategy that would include hopefully a budget, what staff, her partners, and things of that nature. Because right now I'm not clear what direction that's going, and I know that it is a major issue for our community. Also, maybe next meeting if we get an update on the Bridge Street Bridge to see where we're at on that. Curious if there's been, we had talked previously about striping the old center of town parking lot and putting up a public sign because there was some concern about parking, downtown parking. Still want to know, is that a concern Or do we need to do the striping in the old Centertown parking lot, or just save the money and?
Well, I have not heard anything,
I haven't
if
heard
anything on that, so, I mean, if we haven't heard anything and nobody's, coming with us with bats and knives, I guess we better leave them alone for a while.
And then we also talked about the car show. Did anybody follow up with that individual and let them know that we wanna move that down to the parking lot and move that off?
I have not, but we can't do that.
I think they're over for the year, so,
I
Yeah.
think the last one was November, but just for planning.
Yeah.
She
Okay.
doesn't know that going
I think that's something that I would give to tourism, because I think they the one that set that up, and I think that's a conversation with Lori that they may wanna, going forward for next year to remind them that when they have that, is making sure that, let me write myself a note, car show.
And then last meeting, we talked about the restaurant tax. Just where were we at with that?
Well, like I said, it's something, as I mentioned before, it's something, I'm still collecting information on that, and that's something I'm gonna just circle back on later. I'm gonna make sure I get all the information that I need, and then after I do that, then I'm gonna bring back forward and talking with, the stakeholders, that will be the restaurant owners and people on council and other, and then present, some type of strategy going forward.
Thank you.
Okay? All right.
I'm good.
You good?
Thank you very much.
Yes, you are.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, same to you. All right, Ms. Brent?
I don't have much. I just want to say I'm happy about the shelter, that there's not going to be any restrictions, because that's my heart right now, the homeless that's out there in our community. And I had a good time at the fire prevention parade. My grandchild enjoyed getting in the fire truck and then getting in the assistant chief's truck too, but it was very nice.
I had to walk.
It was, I enjoyed it though.
Just saying.
That's all I had.
Go ahead.
I have the honor and fun of speaking to Miss Stephanie Sawyer's fourth grade class at Eastern Elementary. And it's amazing the insight that they have at such a young age. And as a language arts teacher, there was a writing portion of my presentation, and they've written a letter to City Council and to the mayor. And Ms. Sawyer said, while it would be unreasonable to expect a response to each letter, and I have a packet for each of you from them, I know my students would love feedback about some of the ideas they are sending to you. If you'd like to send us a letter in reply, you can send it via email or mail at the addresses listed below. So I have one of these for each of you, plus as you leave, you can pick up a packet if you like to read some of the things. Whoops, we'll just send this all the way down. I'll keep one.
I would like to read it.
And, they've written on this template, and it's, so you can each have a packet if you want. If not, just leave it,
Taking the
and
original.
y'all can take one if you want. I'm not gonna see them again. They're yours to answer or not answer. Mr. Bruin, I did have one thing, and I don't know if this is in your category, but there's a lot of crumbling off of the bridge there at Southern States, and I saw a couple of pedestrians going underneath the bridge and almost falling into the lane because of the stones that are there. I know you probably go through.
We go by there from time to time.
Yeah, it just falls from the.
Yeah, we have to shovel it up.
Okay.
Sweeper won't pick up those big ones.
Okay, so.
I'll have somebody go by there.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it, Mayor, so thank you. Good meeting, and I'm thrilled that we've got a city attorney, and I hope to work with you and meet you real soon in person, maybe tonight. Oops, I'm
Well,
sorry.
you hand me this packet, it remind me of my days when I was scoring those things for back in school.
Absolutely.
Stay after school and score these kids' work here, that was, I thought I was done with those days. Now you make me more of this to do, okay, so it'll give me some light reading to do. All right, next, Mr. Hampton.
Again, welcome, Emily, to the city, and I don't have anything, just to say everyone have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
All right, last but not least.
I'm good.
You're good.
I knew you was gonna say that.
You're good. Well, before we close, once again, I want to congratulate Emily, and her name now is Emily May, That's her middle name now, I gave her, so there you go. Everybody on my staff gets a new middle name, and so there you go. That's yours, and you can have it. And so she's good with that now, and again, welcome. And if no one else have any further business to bring before this council, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
That is my mother's name, Emily May.